It's the Blue Jays this week, vodcast. Ben Ennis and Mike Wilner for the first time. It seems like a long time.
Yeah, that was like 4 weeks, I
Missed
think.
you, man.
Well, you did it twice with Ben Nicholson-Smith. I did it once
Yeah.
with Ben Nicholson. It's very sad.
I
mean, this is
know.
getting the gang back together.
I know. It feels really good. It's a shame this team doesn't really look
It
all
doesn't
that
feel
great.
really good.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
No.
We're going to get to that in a second, but I think we should start with Tom Cheek, who's going into Cooperstown this weekend. On Saturday, I believe.
Saturday night.
Where he's going to, his wife is going to be given, Shirley Cheek's going to be given the plaque, I imagine, Ford C. Frick Award.
Ford C. Frick Award. Broadcasters Wing. Scribes and Mic Men, that's what it's called in Cooperstown.
Yeah, I was just there for the first time, and as
Very
you know,
cool.
it's a really cool place. It's kind of off the beaten path a little bit, and it was on my way to New York City. It's not really on the way to anything.
No.
Because
It's on the way to Oneonta.
I don't know what that is.
If you're broadcasting for the Oneonta Yankees, and I did one of their
Okay.
games once, it's on the way. You go
Oni-
right by.
Do they still have a minor league team? Oneonta?
I think there's still a team in Oneonta. I don't
I've
know. It's in the
never
New
heard
York
of it.
Penn League.
Okay.
Jorge Posada played
Not calling
second
you a
base
liar.
for that team.
Really?
Yeah. Not the one I did, but he did at some point.
That's cool. Anyways, yeah, we're going to get to Buck Martinez talking about his good friend Tom Cheek in just a second. But before we get to that, why don't you share some of your memories of Tom?
I mean, I've talked about him, so I feel like it's almost overkill, but it's just he was so important to me, both in there, up in the booth, and just growing up, listening to him. You know, we all kind of grew up listening to Tom, and I feel like a lot of the stuff that I do in broadcasting, just unconsciously, some comes from Tom, some comes from Jerry, but I mean, he was such an overwhelming presence, that big voice. He figured out a way to let you know he was rooting for the Blue Jays without being a homer.
Not being Hawk Harrelson?
He was right. He was happy when they did well, and you could tell he was disappointed when they didn't. He was a great broadcaster. The voice was huge, and then getting to meet him. And the first time I met him was in 1989. Len Bramson, it might have even been 88. Len Bramson put together what was the Hupex Sports Network at the time, and he hired Tom and Jerry, and I was working a game for U of T Radio, just sitting there, and he struck up a conversation. I had no idea who this guy is, and he said, "You want to come in the booth and meet Tom and Jerry?" Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I went in, and it was great, and to be working with them 12 years later, it was the most amazing 2.5 years just to share a booth with him and to have him kind of mentor me and take me under his wing, and I can't say enough wonderful things about Tom Cheek, the man, the broadcaster. I mean, they said it all by putting him in Cooperstown, finally, 8 years too late.
They never do that in time for the
they
people
really
to be
don't.
alive.
Yeah. And with Tom, it was especially, for me, I thought, and I don't want to complain about, but they knew. They knew, A, he was good enough that he was going to get it, and they knew he wasn't going to be around much longer. He never, ever, ever would have believed that he would win the Frick Award, and it would have been so great.
Yeah, absolutely would have. I just missed out on working with him. I think it was an intern at the Fan his last season. But, yeah, obviously just the voice of baseball in Toronto for so long, since 77, obviously, and a guy that knows him very well, Buck Martinez. Tom Cheek, the subject of our Ford Leaders in the Field. And Buck, well, he stood around and talked about Tom Cheek for a while. It was awesome. Here it is.
Ford Leaders in the Field. Presented by the 2013 Ford F-150, Canada's Player of the Year for 47 years running.
We are here with Buck Martinez, who's the play-by-play voice of the Blue Jays on the television, and we're here because we've been talking about Tom Cheek. You're going to be in Cooperstown this weekend. I have the fondest, most wonderful memories of Tom, and it's almost like I was in broadcasting for a while, but he really gave me that push. He gave you a huge push. He got you started.
Yeah, I sure did, Mike, and I first met Tom, of course, as a visiting player when he was broadcasting early on for the Blue Jays. And then when I came here in 1981, we became fast friends. And it didn't take him too long before he recognized I was near the end of my career. And he suggested, hey, you might want to think about broadcasting. But he really was the guy that got me interested. I never thought about it before Tom mentioned it. But thank goodness he did, because it's been a wonderful career from the point of not playing to broadcasting.
It's a little weird to hear we became fast friends. I mean, Tom's a wonderful guy. You're a wonderful guy. But players and broadcasters, they just don't do that anymore.
Well, you know what? I was a little bit older when I came here, so it was a matter of he and I played a lot of golf together. He loved to play golf, and it was something we had in common. And then, of course, our love for baseball was another thing that we had in common. And our families were very close. I know Jeff and my son Casey were bat boys in spring training, and they really looked like Mutt and Jeff because Jeff was about 6'3" and Casey was about 5'2". But it was a lot of fun for the families. We spent a lot of great times together. Tom and his wife Shirley and my wife Arlene traveled a lot in the off season, so we got to know each other very well.
Well, we look up at left field and we see the 4,306 consecutive games, Tom Cheek, and I mean that's just a crazy, almost unfathomable number.
Doesn't even count spring training in the playoffs.
Yeah, really, it's ridiculous. And Buck, obviously, you understand very much so what it would be like, not just as a broadcaster, as a player, but just to show up every single day. You know, missing a couple of things. He finally did miss a game because of his father's funeral. But how difficult a task was that for him to put together so many consecutive games?
I don't think it was difficult for him at all. I think that was his generation. He signed on to do the job, and he was going to do it every day. And his father was a Navy pilot. He grew up around the military, so he understood discipline and regiments. And when he signed on, he knew that his job was to be the Blue Jays' voice, and he was going to be that voice every single day. It's not unlike what Cal Ripken did when he broke Lou Gehrig's record. He came from a family of baseball people, and when Cal Sr. said, let's go to work, they meant let's go to work, and you were going to work every day.
And whenever we talk about people, our icons, and a step further who've passed away, we talk about how wonderful they were, how humble they were, all this stuff. I remember sitting right there in the Blue Jays dugout on Tom Cheek Day. He was sitting, looking out, and he saw the little bunting over the thing, and he just said, "You've got to be kidding me." Like you said about the streak, he just thought he was showing up for work every day. But this is a guy who never walked around with his chest puffed out, hey, I'm a big league broadcaster. He was just going to work.
Yeah, he sure was. And he was fortunate in his own mind that he was able to do it. I think he loved being around the ball players. He loved being around the other broadcasters. And I always thought that he never put himself up on a pedestal. I know he didn't. It wasn't him. He wasn't all about that. He wanted to come to the ball game, do a good show. He wanted to play golf whenever he could. He wanted to be around his family whenever he could, and he did that very well. But he took great pride in the ability to sit in that booth and relay the stories of the game, the personalities of the player to the fans from coast to coast. And, my greatest memory of Tom is working in the '84 World Series. The Kansas City Royals are playing Detroit. We're in Detroit, and Trammell had hit a long fly ball to center field, and Whitaker was tagging up at first, and he went to second base, and Kirk Gibson was the batter. Well, before the next pitch, Tom looked up and noticed Frank White was over in foul territory behind first base, and he looked down and he went, "Whoa, boy, they're playing the Gibson shift here." Well, what had happened, of course, was the Tigers were appealing that Trammell had left early. So from that point on, of course, it became the Gibson shift.
Buck, you look at 20 years ago, and of course everybody remembers the epic home run call, the Joe Carter home run call, and Tom Cheek, obviously, that's one of the lasting memories people have of him. But you look at, I don't know, that was kind of my formative years looking at that Jays team, and you see the attendance spike going up these seasons, and of course the preseason hype had a lot to do with that. But how many Blue Jays fans now do you think were affected, and their love of the game maybe was brought out by what Tom Cheek did and bringing the game to so many youngsters 20 years ago?
Thousands of fans became fans during that era because of Tom Cheek. They would ride in the car, they would hear his voices, and they would hear swinging a belt, and they knew exactly that Tom Cheek was doing a Blue Jays game, and they became very, very good fans because of Tom Cheek. He was a guy that meant so much to everybody from coast to coast, and the ability to bring that game to the fans every single night. They turned it on, they heard his voice, they had a comfort level all of a sudden that Tom was going to bring the game home for them no matter where they were.
You said swinging a belt, and that's that. I mean, he didn't have a signature call, but everything just came spontaneously. But he did that a lot, and that was great. I remember Katie bar the door and stuff like that. He had this folksy way of doing it. Are there any other favorite sort of Tomisms that you can think of? And I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
You know what, Mike? I think the biggest thing that I remember about Tom is the way he would sing the songs on the in-between innings when the PA was playing songs, and he would sing them in the booth, And, of course, he thought he was Neil Diamond, but he was terrible. He had a much better voice as a broadcaster than he did as a singer. But I think that was the joy he had. He was in his element. He was in the broadcast booth at a ballpark. he had a chance to be around guys like Ernie Harwell, and he got a chance to be around Harry Carey, and he got a chance to be one of the boys. And now he is truly one of the boys going into the Baseball Hall of Fame, and I think it's well-deserved and long overdue.
How much are you looking forward to this weekend?
Oh, it's going to be great. Not only will we be able to recognize Tom, but we'll see his family, and we still stay in touch with Shirley, and she travels with us from time to time, but to see a lot of the people that we haven't seen since Tom passed, so it'll be great. A reunion and a celebration at the same time.
There he is, Buck Martinez, talking about Tom Cheek, and there you see it, 4,306. Tom Cheek on the level of excellence. I like that new level of excellence sign as well that's up there, and right next to Carlos Delgado, who just went in over the weekend. And Mike, that is, what was your longest streak now?
I'm at
20?
36 now. Right now, we're getting set for the Blue Jays' 99th game of the season, I think. I'm at 36, so it really is amazing. Jerry's streak is somewhere around 300, and it's going to end on Friday when he goes to Cooperstown. So it just illustrates, and he got sick a couple of years ago and missed the last game of the season. It's just so hard to do. It really is, and it's an amazing thing. It's weird to say that it's an amazing thing to show up for work every day for 27 and a half years, but it is an amazing thing.
Well, most jobs you don't work every single day, right? And you pick up colds or sicknesses, throat problems.
Right.
When
For
you're
us, like a
broadcasting.
sore throat knocks you out.
Exactly.
Sorry, you can't go to work if you got a sore throat.
Yeah.
But he was incredible.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. It's going to be a great weekend for Tom Cheek as he finally goes into Cooperstown. Let's talk about this team because we kind of have to.
How great would it be for Tom Cheek to go into Cooperstown to have the Blue Jays actually playing well? Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's possible, even if they sweep the Houston Astros.
Well, then they'd be playing well.
I guess.
But I mean, to salvage the season is going to take a lot more.
I don't know. I don't want to maybe have this conversation. Maybe this is something but it seems like it's unsalvageable at this point. But let's talk about. You don't think so?
I don't think it's likely by any means, but it's certainly there's enough time. There's 65 games left or whatever, but
okay,
it would take a miracle.
Well, here's what I want to talk about.
Miracle?
It would be miracle. Yeah, it would be bordering on a miracle. I almost have to run the table. But you look at this bullpen. It was the strength of this team all season long. The starters were terrible. Starters still terrible. The offense is pretty steady all season, although recently it's had its ups and downs. But the bullpen.
As we sit here, they scored 14 runs in 2 games.
Yeah, no
enough to win either one.
Well, that's the thing. And that second game of the Dodgers series, first time all season long, they have not won a game leading going into the 7th inning.
Going into the 8th. Leading after 7.
After 7, going into the 8th inning. So the bullpen's been amazing. But here's the problem. They've been extremely overworked. And I think we're starting to see that right now.
When you look at the individual numbers, nobody stands out as nobody's on pace to throw 100 innings or anything, but they get a lot of work often. They're working an inning today, an inning tomorrow, and then one day off. Yeah, they have to come in the 3rd inning a lot of the time too, which it's insane. And that's why they've run with an 8-man bullpen. They had a 9-man bullpen for a few games this year, but it still hasn't helped. And they're going to wear down, and they're not going to be perfect anymore. And you're not going to be able to go into games late with little bitty leads unless you start to let them recharge their batteries a little bit. And the way to do that is maybe getting some decent starting pitching every once in a while.
How do they do that?
You maybe get some decent starting pitching every once in a while. Jay Happ had his first start in Buffalo last night, rehab, so he's on his way back. But it is amazing to me that we're saying Jay Happ.
Todd Redmond's been okay.
Well, he's had 2 good starts and 1 bad one. So, Josh Johnson's not been okay.
No, he hasn't.
And
Does he have options left?
He's he's got over 5 years in the big leagues, so you can't send him down without his permission. I can see a phantom DL thing happening for him if this doesn't turn around. R.A. Dickey's got to turn things around.
So.
Right. You would.
If
he doesn't get out of the 3rd inning against the Astros, he's going on the disabled list. R.A. Dickey's got to turn things around. He says he's feeling better. We saw the big knuckleball. We saw some in the 80s last time out. Look, this is what this team was supposedly built on, the strength of their starting pitching. And the starting pitching has been abysmal this year.
Can't overstate it, how bad it's been.
You found Esmil Rogers out of nowhere, expecting nothing from him. He's been great, and your starting pitching is still awful. That's how bad it is.
It's not good. It's basically
it's the opposite of good is what it is.
Before we go, non-waiver trade deadline approaching at the end of July.
Yep.
I've talked to you on the radio a bunch of times about this. The Blue Jays aren't generally buyers or sellers.
Right.
They're going to be in the middle there somewhere. But at this point, if you can get something for a bullpen piece because you know they are so up and down.
Or even multiple bullpen pieces.
Even multiple bullpen pieces, and you got guys that are in the later stages of their careers, and obviously Darren Oliver didn't help his trade value with the one outing.
His trade value will never change. Even he gave up 4 runs in that one inning. He's still contender, left-hander,
Is that something you
playoff
would?
experience. I do not expect Darren Oliver to be here August 1st.
Yeah. So you think Alex is looking at bullpen arms that he can move out?
Well, there's a roster crunch coming, right? Sergio Santos is coming back. Luis Perez is coming back. You got to make room for these people, and there's only so many guys with options. Neil Wagner's been farmed out, even though he didn't deserve it. He was doing great, right? So I think Darren Oliver will be traded. I don't think the return's going to be significant unless
they're not getting Chase Utley for him.
Well, they don't want Chase Utley anymore, even if they ever did. But unless you slap together a Rasmussen package, right, with 3 good relievers that can get you a guy who's fallen out of favor, who's talented.
It's my favorite adjective, by the way, Rasmussen.
Yeah, but I mean, if you can find somebody like that who feels that their bullpen is a problem, they've got a young kid, you're not going to get Colton Wong for Darren Oliver, right? But you might get.
We've already seen some bullpen arms being moved as well.
Right. Francisco Rodriguez moves with an ERA just above 1.
Yeah.
He's having a much better year than anybody on the Blue Jays.
Matt
Thornton moved, but not a huge return. You know,
but
not
he's
a huge
36,
return.
right?
Well, Darren Oliver's 78.
Yeah.
Right. But I think you might need to put some guys together. I don't think you're going to get Nick Castellanos from the Tigers for Casey Jansen. I don't think you're going to get Colton Wong for Casey Jansen. But I think there are packages you can put together that will get you a good player if you're willing to do it. Then again, you got 5 more years of control of Steve Delabar. I would need something really good to deal him.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
absolutely. So we'll have to see. It's going to be.
Not going to get him for like Eric Thames or something.
That's good. This guy's funny. He's Mike Wilner. You can follow him on Twitter at Wilnerness590. You can follow me on Twitter as well at BennisSnet. And it was just great being back here. Great being back at the ballpark, getting the band back together. Unfortunately, it's only going to last 1 week, but we'll figure out something for next week. We'll see you next week.